Alright, so I didn't really want to make this video in lieu of other people who have covered what it means to be privileged, or what it means to be a certain race, a certain nationality, what it even means to be discriminated against. In a lot of ways, I have experienced discrimination and the like, though it's definitely more about how it is that I came to that in the first place. And what's obvious to me is that I got caught up in the story of life. And the story of life is less that it's about your background or that you've come to inherit great fortune from everything that you've done. It's more about how much is lacking in your life, how much has been taken away from you as an individual, and instead of allowing that to be a substantial area to understand where we all come from and where privilege has an underlying assumption about it, where it's you've been born with it or you'll never have it, versus the phenomenon that is random people rising from the beaten down, the broken. These people also exist. There's no perfectly broken individual. Everybody is facing problems. Everybody has these things that they think are bigger than themselves or consider to be bigger than themselves. They assume it and then they embody it. They embody the problems that continue to arise in their lives. And of course, I've been one of those people who've been through that, to recognize other people's greatness, to recognize other people's bright, shining star of a personality, and just really feeling daunted, like I could never do that. Look at my situation, look at all the things that are broken around me. I don't even know where to begin, and that's it. It's actually the very first thing that works very well as a catalyst. It is the things that you perceive as broken, because from that you always have the ability to look at it differently, much like the impossible stairs, where it's all about how you look at it rather than how you go about trying to interact with it and complete this thing. Because we're always in this race to complete, to get up there, to get numbers, to get followers, to get likes, to get all of these things that don't really make us any happier. I mean, whether or not I know other YouTubers or I've spoken to another YouTuber, I'm pretty sure what they do is genuinely things that are silly, that are goofy. Those are the things that are really them. Those are the things that make people laugh, and those are the things that people remember. And regardless, the take on that, a majority of that proof was that PewDiePie was #1 YouTuber for a very long time, until the battle for who is more important on the platform, a big business or a YouTuber who creates things, those things collided and they needed a resolution. And the privilege of even being able to stand at the top of YouTube and still be, able to rally support, gain numbers, and really be there and do the things and be the first to really rise up to those first numbers is usually extremely daunting. But it's also a chance. It's always a chance. We always have this opportunity to become the people that we really want to be, regardless of the obstacles and stuff like that, regardless of who's already there, about taking those chances, about really knowing what it is, less knowing, but realizing that there are things that you do lack, and that's fine because you have different strengths. And in order to really reach those goals, you really have to dig deep and just realize that, yeah, maybe you're not perfect. Maybe you're not feeling worthy of having that admiration from other people. And I've definitely been there. I didn't want people to look at me like I'm a somebody. I wanted people just to like look at me and see past like my skin tone and all the usual questions that come to mind, like, oh, are you Middle Eastern? Are you, what are you? And it's like, I'm me. Because the idea of this privilege about coming out and being an individual is usually this idea of like, oh, what will people see of me? What will people acknowledge about me? Will they realize that I have a heart or that I have something that I really want to say? And yeah, people will really just latch on to your visage if that's what you're worried about your face, about where you come from, your background. Because the thing about worrying about it is that you create more issues around it rather than actually solving them, unless you utilize them. You utilize the things that make you who you are, because they're just lessons to learn from. But bigger than lessons, they are actually energy. They are vibes. They are the vibration that rattles through everything. You're continuing to vibrate all the way through your reality, so might as well realize where your vibe is, where your vibration is at, what it is that you're actually doing. Because the thing is, you're going to constantly scrape and cut yourself and move along the ground as somebody who's insignificant or not important or unworthy of things, or just not having what it is that you're looking for inside of you, that you're not whole. And it's a paradox. And the paradox is that the more you scrape around, the more you feel lost, the closer you get to something. And the closer you get to that something, the more apparent it is that you actually do have what it takes to do what needs doing. And that in and of itself can scare people. In and of itself, that can be a daunting task. So we usually set it aside. We don't want to deal with it. We don't want to be the one person who brings a voice to it, because we're constantly worried about whether or not our voice is good enough, whether or not our voice is even important enough to reach those things. We just continue to fill our lives with the abstract nature of what it means to get what we want and to actually benefit from the things that we do to help other people. When studies are out there where people who are more abundant, they're constantly giving, and that's in their nature. It's everybody's nature. Granted, there are those whose entire purpose is to show that there are things that you got to be wary about that are dangerous, such as people who are willing to take advantage of you, people who are willing to get you into situations that are absolutely unfair. And that's just it. That powerlessness to really move forward is a big part of the identity of what it means to be privileged, is that you, all of the understandings that you have are all about how you lack something and how you're powerless, truly powerless to really do anything about it, that you're unworthy to have it, that your capacity for it is low because you got time for all of this other stuff, but not time for yourself. So it always comes off as very nonchalant. Maybe you're more aggressive than you should be. Maybe you're more passive than you should be. Maybe you just really don't deal with it. You don't look at it. You don't even try to come to terms with the things that are going on inside of you, because it's fine. I think this is one of the few videos that I've actually seen where it's all right to be at where you're at. Very few videos will take 10 minutes to tell you that you're all right. Uh, that that power to transition between being a broken person who's, woe is me, I'm not this, I'm not that, yeah, the more you have more of that, the less you're going to trust yourself with the more important things in your life. And that's okay. That really is okay. Because the more you do this, the more you interact with that part of yourself and really just notice the things that you think, the things that you feel. All of these things are important. All of these things are the lessons that were never really taught anywhere else. Like, what does it mean to feel this to you? What does it mean to think these things? What does it mean to be in this place? And guess what? You're probably going to be the most accurate with whatever it is that you assume is going on with you by just making it up. Imagine a story behind the character that you are, because you're a story. I like to refer to my ayahuasca experience because it showed me a lot of things. Like, I saw zombies, I saw people who were willing to take advantage of me. I was willing to see those things in everybody in the room, despite that not happening in the moment, because that's just it. We don't always exist in the moment. We're trying to distract ourselves, we're trying to avoid things. Like, honestly, I always try to avoid being the center of attention or talking about things that I care about, because if I care about it, it doesn't necessarily mean that other people will care about it. Because I've always been just really with like the idea of human beings being animals, because we're animals, but animals have their own flow and everything like that. So I examine animals all the time, and I just look at them. Look at our dogs, husky in particular, because huskies have probably the greatest flow when it comes to dogs. That they're more willing to continue to go with things when they're the most interactive dog, and not necessarily getting that attention or getting that interactivity in their lives, pulling a sled or going out and chasing other huskies around. Like, they actively just observe passively, and the majority of that passive observation goes into practice. So they don't need context for most things. They just observe, and then they go with whatever feels natural to them while they're doing what they're doing. And that's a privilege. That has always been privilege, is always truly recognizing what you have and that being important, making that important. We always think of privilege as, oh, well, you're entitled, you're all that, no, nothing can touch you. And it's like, no, being alive is privilege. You didn't have to be here to do what everybody else does. You didn't have to be here to work a low-wage job and to suffer and to grind away and grind yourself away till you die. Because your circumstances say so. Your circumstances say, hey, this is more important than your life. This is more important than your creativity. This is more important than anything else that you have going on. Yeah, it's scary as hell to actually face the things that are going on underneath all that. because you're going to recognize that there is things that just, if you really take it apart, like all the things about like not being powerful and all these other things, yeah, they have a storyline probably somewhere where like you were young and you got like stung by a bee, so now you feel unsafe for the rest of your life. Like, truly, just take the time to make it up, write it down, speak it out loud, voice record it, whatever, for sensations that come up, or feelings that you have, or thoughts that you have. I'm currently doing a practice, so I'm constantly observing what's going on inside me, making up a whatever, allowing it to tell me what the hell's going on, because frankly, if I didn't, I wouldn't know what the fuck is going on with me. And that's truly scary. Like, the idea that there's this entire cog of events that continues to spin and turn and destroy you time and time again. It just keeps coming back, it just keeps coming up, it just keeps coming back, it just keeps coming up. And I've experienced other people and really getting them to just see it, like bring that to themselves, really just sit with it and go, huh, I've been doing that to myself, haven't I? Because despite how we have different sayings like, oh, it's all about the wolf that you feed, good, bad, whether or not human beings are like really good in nature, and being is how it's like the idea of being good enough. Frankly, you are good enough, but like I can't just tell you that and you'll take it at face value. There will be people who will do things to try and prove it rather than just being like, I don't really have to prove it. I don't have to prove who I am to anybody. I can just have fun. And truly, that's where the entire ideology of what it means to be privileged and be in a place where you can really accept yourself and accept the things that are coming up has been lost on us, as not just a Western culture, but also other cultures as well. Like, they don't always have the ability to just disassociate, because that has also been something that is considered fundamentally wrong with you. It's not, because when you're able to dislocate yourself, we'll go with that. When you dislocate yourself, you are actively pursuing something else. The story is completely lost on you. It can come off as like you have a deja vu about disconnecting from it all, because no matter what, you're with yourself through all time and space. You're going to continue to develop, you're going to continue to create things, you're going to continue to do things. And when you dislocate, you are continuing a path that is not connected to everything else that you were before you dislocated. Because there's always a call back to heart. There's a call back to just really being childlike again. Like, my inner child my inner child has always been in there just like walloping away, really going at myself, like really getting just like all of these things into place so that I can just alleviate myself of being burdened, of being somebody who's black, somebody who's also German, somebody who has no idea what one half of my life is like due to it being ADOS or African descendant of slavery. You know, there's an entire storyline behind that. Yeah, records were lost, people were sold as objects, and nobody kept records, so everybody's lost. There's no generations, there's no anything, there's nothing on that side that you can track. So if you're trying to identify with it, it's hard to identify with it when literally it's gone. The moment they were sold, the moment they changed hands, that's it. There's no proof of that past. None. Granted, being part German, there's an entire like history and story behind that. But just having that loss isn't that bad. But it's people who are trying to reconcile themselves with being lost, with literally being what feels like forgotten, makes that negative appealing about privilege. Like, they have the chance to do something about it. I don't have that chance. I don't have what it takes to have that chance. But you do. The thing about having culture is that it's also binding. So being lost isn't that bad. Literally having something that continues to fuel who you are as a mechanism, as like, oh, I was born only as this person, it limits what you can do. It limits what you believe is capable of being said about yourself, about others. And frankly, it is upsetting. Like, if you really want to look at all the things about your life and about you and take that super personally, you can. You really can. But it's never been a personal thing. So I'll go back to my ayahuasca trip. Even though I was seeing all of these horrible things, feeling all this horrible pain, it was just reliving it that was hell. It had nothing to do with the actual experience itself, because it was beautiful. Even when things were going horribly wrong and people wanted to eat me and were looking at me funny and it sounded like I was in the middle of a rainforest, those things are all part of no longer buying the story, because you have to continue to buy the new edition of your story in order to stay there. And there's nothing wrong with staying there. It's just that you're never going to be the person that you really want to be. Like, you're never going to rise out of an occasion which should have destroyed you, rather than like it becoming a phenomenon, something that other people can just like look at and be like, wow. Like, people who do like irrational things tend to be successful in their own right. They don't necessarily like make it super big. Like, you know what? I will take Felix. Thank you, PewDiePie. You're great. You're great as an example. He's an individual who just chose something and pursued it wholeheartedly. He chose to leave school. He chose to leave working for like a wiener hut of some sort. He chose that. There are so many other people who have chosen not to continue to do something. Eminem, he didn't continue school. He just chose to rap. He chose to read a dictionary and learn how to rhyme words together. These are not random phenomenons. These are people who realized that whatever it is isn't working for them. And a good amount of them is always like, oh yeah, I didn't finish school. That's because school is boring as hell in the US. It really is. Anywhere else, I can't bash it because I haven't been there. As long as it's not educating you in the Latin term, educere, which is to bring out of you. As long as there's nothing coming out of you, there's no education. There's no deeper formula to who you're going to be. And boredom better better and better is the concept that is coming to me. It always gets better the more bored you are, because there's a conflict there. You want to do something, but you don't know what. That's fine, because then you can start making things up because you're looking for something fun to do. Boredom is a tool that has created a lot of things, because there is a willingness to do something. And yeah, when it comes to like our modern interpretation of what it means to have like will and a desire to do something and a desire to not do something else, like, well, yeah, like, do I eat the donut or do I work out? Like, those usually come down to it's not fun. And it's not going to be. Like, the ayahuasca experience, it was very much about me just flowing through a timeline that continued to repeat itself until the day that I die. Like, it is inevitable that I will continue this path and it won't get me anywhere, and it's dead as hell. It really is dead as hell. And it's not great. Like, the idea of resurrecting every day, you have 24 hours to change your life, and you're going to continue to look for something else to entertain you. You're going to continue to ignore the story that's going on inside of you, which is slowly but surely killing you and leading you down a dead-end road. That is a privilege, but it is also your privileged nature to do something better for yourself, because we want other people to recognize us. We want other people to look at us and really just like, oh yeah, this person's having a hard time, and really prove to us that we're having a hard time. We really don't. Like, if you really want to have a bad time, you're going to have a bad time. And you can go outside of that too. This is the bad time. You can be way out there in the Koreans or the Bahamas or whatever it is that you want to do, because even people who always wanted that but worked really hard towards it don't appreciate it after all the hard work. They don't appreciate it after having to deal with assholes or people who don't cooperate with them, or having to deal with conflict all the time to where they had to kiss ass and then like, yeah. They don't appreciate it. They don't come to that spot. They're like, yeah, the ass kissing was worth it. No, it degrades it, because they still live in the same place, slowly killing themselves. No matter how successful that individual is, unless they're constantly creating something, they're not going to be as successful. Like, they have to continue to create things in order to fully get out of this. And this is just pain and suffering. Unimaginable pain and suffering. And, that's great and all. Like, maybe it is too scary to step away from this, because this is certain. This is guaranteed. This here is a beautiful place to be. But it only looks like it, because on the other side, it is an absolute nightmare. But the beauty in the ayahuasca experience, and the beauty of being in any experience that separates, dislocates you, is that you also realize that you have such a deep, beautiful, loving calm about you. It's more of a sensation than it is. It's an overwhelming awareness of something that is continuing to build in your chest, and it just resonates. It just continues to go and go and go and just really impact the world. And this video, I really want it to do that. I really want this video to be the first in a line of talking to other people about their understanding of what privilege is, because the concept of privilege is always held at like, you don't have what it takes. You don't have these things, but somebody else does. Privilege is always usurped by somebody else has it. And coming from literally black, which again is just a color that's oriented to people, is that no, I wasn't picked up as a baby and then somebody painted me black. That shit doesn't work. That comes from segregation, us versus them, and that's another whole messing with what it means to identify and all this other trash. That's the understanding of privilege. There is somebody who is doing better than me. There's an entire group doing better than me, but they have all the opportunity and I don't. is that really where you want to be? Do you really want to just sit back and be like, oh yeah, these people will handle it, they'll take care of the world for me? No, they won't. Because you aren't doing your part. You have to do your part. You have to get up. You have to do something. You know what? I don't even know what I'm doing making this video. However, I assume that my heart is in it, and my heart is palpable through this entire video. Because I'd rather this be an experience, a journey from start to finish, just like I did with my storytelling, because it was just building up to something like this, where I can talk about something more serious, more down to earth, way more personal than just, hey, look, I don't agree with all this privilege talk. Now, I definitely see privilege as everybody has the opportunity, because privilege truly is just, it's an opportunity to do something. So privilege very much being, you have an opportunity to privilege other people in your presence. You have the power, the palpable power to do something that people actually give a damn about. Like hitting this like on this video, subscribing if you're still here, leaving a comment, sharing this video. Because I would rather say it than some fucking thing popping up on my screen. Though I've been getting into editing and all of that, I still want to make this as genuine as possible. No filters on my face, no filters for my hair, which, of course, you know, lacking, but it's alright. I know where I'm coming from. Because I always wanted other people to take the responsibility for making a video like this, to actually sit down and be like, hey, you aren't exactly who you think you are. You've got a big, beautiful heart, and you can be whoever you want to be. And that's all right. You have the permission to be so, permission to do so. Make it up. Everybody does. There are people who are in positions where you wouldn't even believe the things that they don't know, but they still hold the position. The understanding of having somebody who's incompetent in a position where they obviously don't fit. Like, do you really think, just for a second, rather, can you just be aware of the fact of how asinine it is that there are positions out there where people who don't give a shit about you are in these positions, and they continue to be in these positions because you, that's right, you, this is you, because you got to take responsibility. You aren't filling that role. What if every douchebag boss was only a douchebag boss to show you how it doesn't make any sense that they're there? Because it doesn't. Our world, underneath it all, makes absolutely no sense. There's absolutely nothing that should be running right. There's absolutely nothing that should be operating nearly as well as it appears to be. Nearly. Because that's the assumption that we have. We continue to be like, there's somebody else who fills the position. There's somebody else who can do this better. There's somebody else. There's somebody else. There's somebody. There's nobody else. It's you. It has always been you. And that's really the hell of an experience with ayahuasca, or any journey that you'll go through in life, is that it really just boils down to you. Your assumptions, your awareness of the situation, or the lack of, really does fuel just how desperate people are, and just how pained people are, just how harsh and how dangerous it truly becomes for everybody else involved, because you're not involved. You're not involved in life. You're not involved with moving forward. You're not involved with your privilege, your ability to see the world differently, your way. No way has to be the same. It's asinine, and truly is asinine, that every time there is a new genius born into this world, they liken it to somebody else, to another Einstein or the next Nikola Tesla. Like, they always want somebody else to fill the shoes of somebody else. But that's only because they want to look at the 98% of people who don't live that life and be like, there's nothing special about me and there's nothing special about you because I'm not special. I don't have the privilege. Yes, you do. You're you. That's the greatest privilege of all. Being exactly who you are. That's such a huge level. And I hope it comes as a relief. I really do. Because it's a relief to me that I don't have to be black and white. Because, yeah, Germans, English people, British, whatever, whoever, as long as they're pale of skin, are considered white. Which is dumb. These are different people that come from different cultures who have different traditions, that have different. You see, they have a different storyline. But that also doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in the slightest. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything. And that's because no matter how many stories you tell, no matter how many different people exist in this place, there are other people who will say the exact same thing that I'm saying, just in their own way. And that's fine. Anybody can say whatever they want, as long as they're coming from a place where they genuinely want you to experience life, to go beyond the things that you think are possible. Because that's what I'm doing with this video. I want to go beyond the things that I feel like I was limited in. Getting to people, actually, like, really talking heart to heart with people. Not necessarily getting at people, but like actually being able to just like be that person who's actually, like, in a way sitting with them, nodding my head, and really just acknowledging the person that you are. Because even if I haven't seen you yet, even if you see this video and you leave a comment and all of that, I'm well aware that you're a beautiful person underneath the story that you're telling yourself. And yeah, you might walk away from this and beat yourself up and be like, wow, what have I been doing with my life? That somebody on a video on YouTube had to tell me what it really means to have the privilege of being who I am. Frankly, I would want this video. I would love for this video to just really go out there and just hammer it home for a lot of people and really bring this out of people who really want to do something different in their lives. Because the things that human beings are capable of is infinite. It's only finite because we believe that there are other people who fill the role, fill the position, that all things have already been done. But it hasn't. There aren't people who are going around and selling small nuclear fusion engines. There isn't. There could be, but there isn't. And not on the scale of improvement either. Because when you do what you want to do as an individual and take your privilege and do what you will with it as an individual, as a person, you can impact other people's lives. Because there is something that you want. There's something that everybody wants. Everybody wants to just realize who they really are. Because yeah, you can tag along with the story, or you can become much more than a story. You can create a metropolis of things, a metropolis of just beauty, excellence, an oasis, a truly beautiful place to exist. Eden, if you want. Heaven, if you want. But as long as you deny the hell that you're giving yourself, because we are our greatest critics, we are our biggest bullies, we can't escape ourselves. But we don't have to escape ourselves. We just have to acknowledge where we're at. We have to just really come eye to eye with where we're at and just be like, all right, I can accept that I don't feel like I belong, that I am not good enough, that I'm powerless, that I'm incapable, that I'm unworthy of this, that I'm untrustworthy, that I'm so in control that I'm out of control. And a John Billion song actually comes to mind. Morning in America. At the locker, selling time release. Where's the party? Where's the party? Is the house empty? Didn't use protection, and she doesn't want to keep it. And she doesn't want to keep the baby throwing up in the alley, older brother looking for me. A world of great expectation, but I keep on thinking. We're out of control, and everybody knows. Everybody's aware of the chaos that is going on inside of them. Everybody is aware that we just continue to fuel the problem, but we try so hard to not feel it or be it or take it personally. And that's a good start. You really shouldn't take any of this personally, because this gives you a chance to wash your hands of the things that you've been going through, to really just sit back, take a breath, and really just take a moment to sit there, really hear your heart behind your ears, really just feel that. Feel it. Everything that's going on in your heart, everything that's going on with you. And it's alright. Let it out. Let it go. And let's move on. Because you'll see it. Especially if your eyes are closed. Even if they're open. That there's a child waiting for you. And it's you. Everything that you've ever experienced, everything that you ever did in your life does not matter in the eyes of this child. And you can truly see yourself and really take apart what it is that you're observing as you look into this child's eyes. Really get to see yourself unwind, just untangle from all of that mess. You can take the hands of this child and just breathe. And allow this child to slowly but surely walk you away from the battlefield that you've been holding on to. The destruction you've been holding on to. Calamity that you've been holding on to. Because this is a returning of your privilege to live as a child, wide-eyed and wonderful. Really see what that means. As I say these words, the field of whatever comes to you. It could be trees, it could be grass, it could be sky, it could be water, it could be underwater, it could be space. It could be the surface of the moon. It could be whatever you want. But that's you, this child. You realize more and more that every bit of what you held on to is just slipping away. That's all you can focus on is this child. Or really feel the presence of this child, the way it holds your hand as it guides you. And if it's walking backwards, just feel both of its hands. Look deep into its eyes and just realize that you're becoming this child. And if you're being guided while the child is walking away from you, holding your hand, allow yourself to be absorbed into this child. Because this is you. This has been you since the beginning of time. This has been you before any of this stuff got too heavy for you to carry. Before you got hurt. Before you were damaged. Just truly unravel into this child. Allow it all to fall away. And breathe. And see now at the end of the field that you see a light. And the purple of the interior walls of this plain that you see. It can still be grass, but just purple, pinkish. And as you exit, you can see yourself in your current circumstance. And allow the child to just take your hands. And slowly but surely dissolve you. Dissolve the body. Dissolve the mind. Dissolve the bones. Dissolve you of all responsibilities. And allow the child to take up your place, where you're sitting, where you're standing, where you're laying down, wherever you are when you hear this. And allow all of those dissolved bits to slowly wake up, to realize that you're a child again. And when you feel ready and steady, you definitely feel the pouring and the calling that is inside of your heart to go out, hug somebody, look at trees, look at nature. Go outside. Go for a walk. And you know, come back, leave a comment, and I look forward to seeing just seeing. No expectations. If I do assume the best out of this video, I choose to. It's like I choose to see the best out of everyone. Because the potential is there. I see it. I see it in everybody. And I see it in you. Because I recognize the child in me. So I always recognize the child in you. Much love, and hope you enjoy the outside world and all the things that it contains. Just really keep a note of all the things that you get to experience now. and exist. Take care.